This is a short introduction to a video that I just did on the instructions of saddling with an Orthoflex saddle. A few little things to add and clarify. Cinching, number one, is different with an Orthoflex than it is with a regular saddle. You have to cinch to where you're actually over tight on the ground, or you have to cinch the saddle again after you get in. I enjoy 2 Latigo straps and cinching the horse on each side good and snug before I get on, so I don't have to worry about it later. Or you can simply move the saddle over to the right side of the horse, so when you cinch, you actually pull it to the left side of the horse as you're tightening on the left side, the near side. And as I showed in the video, doing that is a matter of leaning against the horse till he pushes back against you and using your shoulders. The power is in the shoulders and pulling out on that Latigo strap. The other critical thing is balance, and it's hard to even show you on a video what balance is. You have to feel it from your seat. When it's good, you know it. When it's bad, you'll know it only once you've felt it right. And that is a neutral spot to sit in that we design in all the seats of our saddles. And that keeps your weight from being thrown into the stirrup. If a horse runs downhill, if he's too narrow in front, if the saddle is wider than he is and it's running downhill, for instance, you have to lift it up in front and balance it. Now we can figure out where we set the skirts up over the shoulder with the position of the girth being right in the heart girth area of the horse, and that positioning the skirts up over the shoulder in the way our rigging's designed. That doesn't always ensure that it's going to lift the seat enough for you to be sitting back and neutral in that seat. Why is it so important? Because it's like riding a horse downhill in the mountains all day long. Never going up a hill, just down, and all your weight's on the front of the saddle. All the weight's on the arched area of the horse's withers and shoulders, which is the most difficult place to actually carry weight. The free span and the flat of the back, even the loin area, is a better place to carry weight than on the arched withers, and you certainly don't want to concentrate it on those withers and shoulders. So balance can be done with a little load leveler shims by putting them all in to lift the saddle, to put them in on one side, to move the saddle over, as I explained with the horse in the video, so that it doesn't fall to the right as he's lazy on the right shoulder and likes to pick up his left. So he lifts his left shoulder, his right shoulder he drops. This is with a left lead horse, and that's about 90% of the horses. The right lead horses are going to do just the opposite. So using all of those load leveler shims on one side, very preferable. If you're a roper, for instance, put them all in on the right side, because you know when that steer hits the end of the rope, he drops that right shoulder to push off and start to the left as a heading horse, for instance. The really only problems I see from Orthoflex with a horse when I do clinics, the biggest problem is either the saddle isn't placed far enough forward, would possibly have to re-angle the rigging to get it up and over the shoulder of the horse, or simply it was never tightened up in the first place. The adjustable system will go ahead and actually lift the saddle in front on any given horse, and if you have the adjusters, it's kind of nice if you go from a 15-hand horse to a 17-hand horse with a long back, and you've got a Western model that's short enough the skirts don't get up over the shoulders. It's no big deal. Not when you can balance the front of the seat, take your weight out of the stirrups, which are attached to the front portion of the tree, and keep your weight in the seat and the stirrups as you need it. When you can do that, balance is no longer a problem. When you have a horse that drops a shoulder and a right and won't take a right lead and so on, the little load leveler shims will help some if they're all 3 put on the right and none on the left. But with the adjusters, you can adjust that system down, which raises the tree up, and only on the one side. Move it well over to the left, burden his left, free up his right, and watch him keep his right lead. It helps a lot. So as you go in to to the rest of the video and we cut and go to the stables. I hope you enjoy it. It's hard to cover everything about saddling in any one video, and I think you'll find very interesting topics in palpating your horse, and to see if you have a sore horse in our other video, which is only 49 minutes, much nicer than the old one I did 10 years ago, which was way too long. But thank you very much. I hope you enjoy your Orthoflex. Hello, Lynn Brown, Orthoflex Saddle Company. This video is basic how to use the Orthoflex saddle. And not just the Orthoflex saddle, but the load leveler pad, and no matter what kind of saddle you ride, how to cinch a horse. I suppose only I have enough nerve to show D. Pickett and Clay Cooper how to cinch a horse, but I did. And both those cowboys are real gentlemen. They were nice enough to listen to me. D. Pickett did look at it and he said, "You know, you could cinch any saddle that way, couldn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Makes sense. I'll show you that a little later." We've got a Futurity cutter. It's a 16-inch seat. It's sitting on a good-sized, nice-looking quarter here. You'll notice that I only have a hand's width from the point of this hip, the back of that skirt. That's the nice thing about having such a very short saddle in this case. Some of our Orthoflex saddles are shorter than others. This cutting saddle is shorter than any other because the 16-inch seat has a tree that's only 20 1/4 inches long. Leaves room for the flex. It allows you to go ahead and get the panels and the skirts up over the scapula, which that is one thing we do want. How to check and feel where the scapula is on your horse? It's where the real substantial bulk right here ends. You can see it in this horse. It's relatively easy to see where that scapula ends. We want to be up over it some. And with the load leveler pad in a moment, I'll show you what we do with a little bit of drop off behind it in most horses. But with a regular saddle, English or military, they use saddles behind the shoulder if they keep them there. They couldn't always keep them there. A lot of English saddles today end up over the scapula of the horse. When you put an Orthoflex up over the scapula, you have 6 inches of flex here. Plenty of room to move with scapular rotation, more to support the front of the horse. I get some people that get a saddle, even Western, they want to set it here. Now this horse is a little higher in the croup than right here where he carries the saddle anyway. He goes down just a little bit. And look at the position we have here. It's terrible. No place to put a saddle. Now, even when we set it up over the shoulder, we are very flat at this time. When we turn around and look at where the cinch is, it's right where I've designed this drop yoke to place it. The mounting on an Orthoflex is put in a relationship to this rigging. Put the rigging to where the girth drops right into the heart girth area. The latigo strap hooks up to the girth. It runs right in here close. That's why I invented the first neoprene girth. Prevents cinch soaring while operating right in the heart girth area. Anywhere else, you cinch up back here, it's going to slip forward one time and loosen. And there you'll be. We control any loss of contact in this flexible reactor type panel system. This is reacting to the movement of the horse. Movement of the horse is using leverage to bend the middle of that panel down and away to follow the movement of the horse's back. All scapulas, the back of the scapula and elbows, the little ulna, have a similar offset in all horses. It's 1 to 3 inches. By finally noticing that, I could go ahead and design the rigging to, in most cases, keep that saddle where I want it and put it just up over the shoulder. You can use a system behind the shoulder on a horse. Sometimes you have to. The bigger the horse gets, the further behind the shoulder the saddle will ride. The smaller the horse gets, the further up over the scapula the panel system and the saddle will ride. Now, smaller the horse, the less amount of inches of rotation. With the bigger horse, the only thing you have to be concerned about is balance. If you have a 17-hand horse, you're sitting behind the scapula, he's long enough, the saddle's not too far back here running into the point of the hip, then you're fine. All you have to do is bring the saddle up and balance it like this. We will show you how that's done. This adjustable system is available on almost any Orthoflex that is of the width to make it worthwhile for you to use it. If I set the saddle on, just casually put it right here in the heart girth area. It's where I want to be. One short thing about stirrups. We put oiled boot leather on the back of fenders. We have a layer of 8,000-pound test nylon webbing that's sewn to that oiled boot leather inside here. And it doesn't, quote, break in too quickly, but it doesn't have to. When you get a new Orthoflex, take your saddle, roll the stirrup strap up, twist it like this, and simply roll it up like an ice cream cone. We can't put them in a box and have them come out this shape. And we don't want the seat jockey flying while it's sitting upside down in the box. It'll always wing out. But if you do this, you can leave it that way overnight and put a stick through on each side if you want to, and let the stirrup straps down real long before you do it. But you see all of a sudden, well, the stirrup stands out. You haven't hurt the leather in the least. Just a little point that I wanted to bring out. This is a new Platinum Orthoflex Neo girth. The Neo girth is very good. You want the girth to be up relatively close to your cinch ring. You don't want it to be down here too far. If it gets down into here, the buckle will create what's already going on in this horse. It's a tenderness to girthing. A horse like this will sometimes act up as you start to cinch him. On the Futurity cutter in particular, because we use it on small cutting horses with a very tight heart girth area, I put a latigo strap on each side. Any lady ordering a saddle is best off with a full latigo strap on each side and not an off billet. The off billet was invented for rodeo early on so that they could switch a saddle from horse to horse to horse very quickly. You only tighten one side of the saddle when you tighten on the near side. With a latigo on both sides, you can tighten one side, walk around, tighten the other side, and not worry about re-cinching your Orthoflex after you're in, but you can do that very easily. One other thing I want to show you here, the seat's very flat. When this horse starts to move, his back changes shape. It comes up at least an inch at the walk. At the trot, it'll come up an inch and a half or more total from standing. So if we want to see the possible balance of a rider with the abdominal contracted back is up that much, and all of a sudden we're already slightly going downhill. We're going to need to bring the saddle together in front and raise it a little if it looked like this with the pad underneath it. With the pad, I don't think we will have to bring it up for this horse. In cinching, if you just have the latigo on one side, the off billet on the other, put your saddle over here. Move it off to the off side. Then when you cinch the saddle, you will pull it toward the middle. If you start in the middle, you're going to pull it toward the right. Somewhat, but the wither will catch it and it won't come too far. But you never tighten the off billet when you start in the middle. If you start with the saddle over to the right, as you pull it toward you, toward the center of the horse's wither, you'll tighten the off billet. The other reason that I use a latigo on both sides on a Futurity cutter is because we prefer the soft sides girth. I'll show you that next. But I don't want a thick and stiff off billet running right down here in a sensitive area that I showed you in a saddle fitting video where all the muscles come together. Right in here. I don't want it I don't want the elbow rotating back into it as the horse does turn backs and is bending and so on. Right now, the only little thing that bothers me, whether it's English or Western, if you want to cinch a horse, don't jerk around on him. Don't pinch him and pull up, or you're going to create a response that's negative. And you're training your horse that it hurts to be cinched, and if somebody's going to jerk around on him, pinch him, and he's going to be a pain in the ass every time you go to cinch him up. Saddle is off to the other side. Stand toward the rear of the horse, lean against him. Put your leg up in there if you really want to get the idea. Lean against him until he pushes back against you. See, he's apprehensive. He's afraid this is going to hurt because he's already a little touchy down there. He's pushing back against me now, and I pull out. And that action is with your shoulders. The strength is in your shoulders. If you're a boxer, the strength is in your shoulders. It's not down here. So we have cinched this horse and cinched him quite snugly with this girth, almost all the way to the top. Can't go any further. And he isn't going to be bothered by it. I don't have to pull a leg out. I haven't got anything folded under on this girth. The nicer way to do it. But, and I will loosen it, tighten it a little more here and see if we have it all the way. We're pretty snug because we're rolling the skin around the barrel of the horse somewhat right now. It's getting a hold of him. That is the basic. Let's go ahead and adjust this and show you what we do with the adjustable system. You get an Allen key when you get the adjustable system. You'll find a little hole, and up inside there is a stainless steel Allen bolt. It's countersunk. It has a flat head. Don't have to worry about it. And then it's sunk in neoprene foam. What I'm doing right now, and I don't know if you can see it here, probably not, but I am letting this panel down. But that's incorrect terminology. Panel is still going to be on the horse after I'm through letting it down. I am raising the saddle up, and that's going to balance the seat of the rider. English saddles are stuffed, restuffed, to be balanced. They are not stuffed to fit a horse. The adjustable system is not here to fit the horse. The panel system moves with the horse. I'll show you that in a moment. Right now, what we're doing with the adjusters is to go ahead and balance the saddle on the horse. Can I tell you if this saddle is balanced after I put it on the horse? No, not exactly. Because the way you ride, how well this horse is trained, how much this horse collects when he's ridden and lifts his back or elevates his forehand as a dressage horse can do, is simply balance has to be determined at that point. Now, when you cinch an orthoflex, it's made, I made this tight enough you can't tie a cinch knot in it. All you can do is buckle. Last thing I want is a knot right here that you rub your leg against, number one. The last thing I want is a knot right here that you rub strap back and forth against and create fluid under the skin from just that little bit of rubbing through all this material, which you can do. That's why I simply go through here, through the girth twice. I have 3 layers of leather here, that's all. That's all the ropers use. It works. You're anchoring down low, the holding power is tremendous. Another word about this dropped yoke. The kick out in a drop yoke keeps us from pulling the saddle forward as we tighten, because that's good. See him bring his back up there? Okay. That's what happens when he starts to move.
The thing that we'll do here is to go ahead and cinch like I did before. You're going to notice that this pulls a little like this. It then takes a little bit of the shape of the barrel of the horse, but it pulls tighter on the front than the rear. It still doesn't let the rear of the saddle pop way up in the air. One of the things that bothers me about reining, pictures of reining people with saddle cocked way up when a horse is sliding to a stop. Okay, lean against the horse. He says, I know what you're going to do now. It's all right. Pull out, and that's as tight as I can cinch. Come here, fella. Did I tickle you too much or just get you tighter than you've ever had a girth? Okay. This girth right here, the horse was already sore down here, was he not? This can simply, it's tight in here, tight on that front edge. If your horse has a tight heart girth area, then the first thing you want to do, or if you are a header, a heeler, a reiner, a cutter, is don't use a $3 flat strap. No matter how good it is, if it's custom woven like ours is, and quite a good girth, if you're doing real performance work, or if you have a Pasofino, or if you have a horse with a tight heart girth area, you need something that does not tighten on the leading edge right here. It's going to give you these problems. And I will compliment John Lyons on a little bit of his philosophy that he told me once. A whole lot of pain in a short period will ruin your horse's performance and his behavior. A little bit of pain, consistent over a long period of time, will do the same. That's what happens right down here. Okay, let's put another girth on here. I want to show you how this girth is designed as opposed to a flat strap. This is 2 layers of reasonably thick leather. The bottom layer you can see right here, it's covered by the neoprene everywhere else. This neoprene is the ventilation channel platinum that we now use. Gets a hold of the horse better and allows for sweat to run off a little more freely and a little bit of ventilation to get through to the skin of the horse. After we put on the neoprene, we also have nylon webbing that runs through here, and that's what you see holding the buckle on. It spreads out at the bottom, so we really hold from the full width of this in the center. Because the horse's barrel is not shaped like this, that's what makes this girth work. We hold very tight on the sternum. This is a bigger curve than the horse's barrel because the rib off the sternum shoots up flat. Here, when it shoots up like that, we can tighten this girth all we want to. We will not tighten it through here to pinch in to the horse. You then have a little saddle under the horse. It's tight where it should be. It's tight here. It's usually quite snug under the buckle, but you can slip your hand in right here no matter how tight you have it. It's quite narrow at the elbow. It's quite wide at the sternum. And please don't lay them all flattened out. Although you won't ruin it, we go to a lot of trouble to make them look and work like this. Lee, could you slip this on that side over there? Thank you. Take it up a little more if you would. Nice thing about a Latigo on both sides, you've got real easy, unlimited adjustment. You really should tighten your horse on both sides, English or Western. And in Western, you've just got to have a Latigo on both sides to do it. You all the way up, Lee. I've got a big girth there. Okay. When we put a pad on, you have to realize the saddle's going to come up a little more, and we might have a little more room. We're doing it without just to show you now. I'm going to push against the horse, lean against him, pull out. Right here is what I want to be able to do. Right here, I can't do it when it's really tightened. It's a little tighter there now, quite a bit tighter than it is here. It'll get snug again here, and that's how this girth works. I'd have to have the, I've got up over the shoulder just a little bit. I'd like to be a little further forward. I'm going to scoot the saddle forward some. I'm going to do it all again with the girth a little closer. Pushing against the horse. I can't get it quite as far as I need it. This girth's a little too long, but you all have the general idea. It's looser than it should be. When we put the pad under here, it won't be. And what we talked about earlier, with a horse that leans on one shoulder to free up the other. In most cases, leaning on the right shoulder and freeing up the left shoulder in movement. Dropping the saddle to the right and the wither up here high on the left, catching it, getting sore. Simply move your saddle then up and over to the left. As he drops the right shoulder and you've saddled, and your saddle is leaning to the left, the saddle goes to the middle. If you've got a real excessive problem in a horse, an extreme problem, move the saddle further to the left. He drops the right shoulder, the saddle stays to the left some. You've just burdened his left side, freed up his right side. Now work him in circles to try to get the lead that you want. But best of all, posting on flat work at a trot, good working trot, and picking the diagonal he wants to throw you off of will go ahead and simply change your horse's timing. Once you're on the diagonal he doesn't like you on, you stay on it. And if it takes 30 miles posting, like some endurance horses, he'll finally switch, start working on the hind on his lazy side, so to speak, and actually start taking the right lead and holding it. This can happen in as fast as 10 or 15 minutes. I've seen it happen that fast on pretty well-trained horses. They still wouldn't take and hold a right lead. They'd take it, but they wouldn't hold it. It can happen in 10, 15 minutes. If you don't have that opportunity, then do it as well by posting on the lousy diagonal. If you're on a gaited horse, you got a problem, folks. You can only do it with saddling and being sure that you try to keep your horse collected. And then getting him into a canter and making him hold the right lead if he's a left lead horse and doesn't want to take a right lead. So by circling him, you will get him in that right lead, circling him to the right. To show you the basic tree-in system with an Orthoflex, there are actually three systems. There's the one system, which is a full-length panel like we used for many years. Takes a little shorter tree to operate at its optimal. Takes a tree with a good shape for the horse. We make our own trees now, and the one system works extremely well for most average uses. The two system is operating on little rocker spacer pedestals. If you can see the space here. Now part of that space is filled up by the thickness of leather skirt on top, but we're still moved away from the tree so we can independently change shape. And the one system, by the way, locks onto the withers of a horse tighter than the two system. So for some things such as roping, K.C. Jones feels it's a little better. He's got both. And K.C. Jones wins a heck of a lot of money roping. The two system works to fit the extreme horse. Now again, your horse may have a back that's very dropped. But as he starts to move, the back comes up. The one system promotes the back coming up because it doesn't pinch here. Two system does the same. But if the back is dropped, this system drops with it. moves away from the tree by just bending the ends. Just bending the front, as a matter of fact. When a horse turns to the right in this case, his right side of his back is shorter, slightly hollowed because of bending. If he's moving naturally and not bending into the bar of a tree in front. Okay. On the left side, his back is lengthening and flattening. So it comes up. As you can see, you have the ability to flatten a little more than flat if it were ever necessary, but usually it isn't. We have the panels mounted so that they will flatten out completely for a mule, for instance. This horse has quite a flat back. He has a little dip here. Not much. The load leveler pad will take care of this. That back, when he's moving, is much flatter. That's why we had to develop a tree that doesn't carry too much weight in the center. It's great to develop a tree with a lot of curve, as we used to do with the one system, and then the ends simply can flex and so on. We don't want the tree too straight today, and particularly with the two system, because we want this to flatten completely. And the way we have all of our trees designed now, one or two system, the horse can bring his back up, the mule is comfortable, the saddle works for the flat-backed animal. For the animal that remains dropped in the back somewhat because of conformation or whatever, the system will flex enough on the ends in the one system to go ahead and allow for this in most cases. In the cases where it might not, this system bends with force. It's leverage with force. And it will push my hand down in a way, will carry your weight in a dynamic fashion. For the real extreme performance horse, the progressively loaded two system works much better. The panels are 3 layers at the mounting. That means it's stiffest at the mounting, and it becomes more flexible as you gradually move away. By solid through rivets, we designed a spring into the panel. We design a lever into the panel. And it's leverage that moves this weight around, your weight, with the movement of the horse doing the bending, carrying your weight in the dynamic fashion. This lets the horse move freely. It takes his mind off of interference from running into a saddle with shoulders and so on. One problem you can have, you're going to have bigger movement from your horse. If you're a trail rider, another problem you can have is a horse that's more comfortable than you've ever ridden, and you ride all day long at a walk. I've had this with the Metropolitan Police Department of London, saddling a very large horse, looked a lot like this, a little bigger, and they couldn't get it saddled well with their British saddler they had on staff. They were going to have to lay the horse off, and he was fairly young and doing well before this. So what they did is they bought an Orthoflex Classic Hunt. It saved the horse. This horse still had sensitive loins. And in doing their checking and thought he was sore from saddling, I said, it's not the saddle causing that soreness. You ride all day at a walk, don't you? They said, yes. I said, I can fix that. They said, how? So I'll show you. I'm going to be there before too long. The captain and I were watching, and I told him what was going to happen as the officer saddled the horse and rode around the courtyard. This is north of London, about 50 miles. And the horse, the captain told me, said, you know, the horse is relaxed. He's collected. And I said, no, he's not collected. Well, my men are trained in dressage. I said, okay, we'll watch. The horse looked like a hound dog at 8 o'clock in the morning sun after a full bowl of food taking a walk. Tennessee walking horse people call it the dog walk. This is a big horse. He had pretty good sized shoulders, and every stride he threw the saddle front to rear about 2.5 to 3 inches. And it was lighting up his loin through too much movement. It's worse with the booties, which we no longer offer, than it is with a pad, by the way, but this saddle had the booties on it. So with any saddle, If the horse is doing a dog walk because he's that comfortable, he's taking the rider for a ride. And the captain asked me, he said, well, what do we do to fix it? I said, you have to ride the horse. He said, but he's trained in dressage and he is riding the horse. I said, no, the horse is taking him for a ride. I said, you have to bring the horse to attention, have his attention at all times, and simply then put him on the bit ever so lightly, just to snaffle. So he said, well, could you show me? I got on the horse. In 5 minutes, the horse no longer would do the dog walk. He knew I wanted his attention. Ladies, 75% of people with a too comfortable saddle on their horse that have this are women. 75% of the riders are women. Just because you want your horse to be comfortable, don't make him irritated back here by not requesting him to come to attention, walk out smartly with a little bit of, quote, impulsion, and not do the dog walk. And you won't have any problems. Men, you're a little heavy on the hands and on the bit and the legs. You don't have that trouble as much. But when you do, keep it in mind. Now, back to the Orthoflex system. We have more than one system. This is the 3 system. Only really necessary for a horse with a complex shoulder shape, for instance, or simply a reiner, a cutter, somebody that wants to feel as much as they can feel from their horse. 3 system is literally a series of fingers. They move and the panel breaks up and moves individually. For the horse with a complex shoulder shape, when the horse does bend and move, this bends more freely, a little bit more passively, I should say, in front. When doing that, it carries the weight into the middle a little differently with a little more force. But it is, for English, great in dressage and jumping. For Western, most recommended for reining, cutting, and or the horse with a heck of a complex shoulder shape. By the way, this tree I wanted to show you, this is just rigged as a bare bones so you can possibly get on and ride. If I can get all the stuff out of the way, many of our trees, like this little purity cutter, become very thin in the cross section. Very close contact. This is 8 inches wide in front, very thin and open through the gullet, yet narrower than most Western saddles right across here and very close to the horse. Something we do a lot of now. Let's see that load leveler pad. I know that I want to be over the shoulder some with the panels on the front of the saddle. So I'm going to place the pad right where I would be over those shoulders. And hopefully that will place these pockets to where they'll be right behind the shoulders. This horse has a little dish behind that shoulder on the side of the wither. What do I need to fill this in? About 2 of the little load leveler shims. They're right in here. They take the bottom one off, and I'll use the 2 small ones. Thinking of it, without the pad, you can place it right there and see what you want to do. What you're doing now is you're not flexing the panels as severely by the shoulder. You don't have as much tension on the shoulder or the wither area with the panels. With a regular saddle, this works great. You may want all 3 with a regular saddle. With an Orthoflex, not necessary in this horse. And by just leveling the load-bearing area on this horse's back, right here, we're going to carry weight in a depression. People do not realize this, but if that's a little bit of depression standing, it is more, come on, fella, deeper depression with the leg extended. So as the horse moves and the muscles contract, this deepens some. Right here, by using, by the way, all 3 of these together, the big one on the bottom, you can lift the saddle some if you need to, but only a small amount compared to the adjustable system. To get behind that shoulder, I'll put those about right there. Set the pad about right here. I'm going to move them back a little. I have a pad that's long enough on this horse that I want to be sure they're behind shoulder, and I'm not going to go past the point of the hip with that saddle. So right in here, I can feel the front of the pad and feel the back of the shoulder. They're right there. I filled in that area with just 2 little 1/4-inch neoprene shims. The larger one on the bottom, the smaller one on the top. Don't get it backwards, it doesn't help a thing. So let's do that to the other side, and we will go ahead and put the saddle back on this horse, and he says, cinch me up again. Okay. I had something under there. I'm up over the shoulder. I'm just about where I was before. But I'm going to have to break in the fleece. I'm going to have to break in the pad some. And before I cinch down, I'm going to have to stuff this contoured pad right up in there. Now, I won't ride hardly anywhere. A few minutes. The shearing forces here will work this pad down right to the horse, but it won't be bindingly tight. The thing I gained here is I'm going to get the saddle down around the horse. If I leave the pad sitting on the horse and just tighten the saddle, it doesn't slide well on this. That's what pads were made for. It's what fleece was put on the bottom of saddles for, is to keep the saddle pad from, quote, slipping. Believe it or not, that's in Glenn R. Burnham's book, and he's about as good an expert on Western saddling as you want to find, and historian. Yeah. We were too long without the pad, and we're almost too short with it from where it's cinched on the other side now. But I'm going to push, lean against the horse here. Oh, fella. Yeah. And I'm going to pull out, and I'm going to tighten evenly. Okay. Take it off on the other side a little ways here. I'll get it. Okay. Now, I'm quite tight, but I don't have a big, quote, rebellion here. And I want to get it really tight. But see the hand in here? You just don't stick a hand in here. And you certainly don't stick one in here. Leaning against the horse again, pulling a little more, may prevent you from doing it after you get on. Tightening on the other side most definitely should prevent it. Come on, walk around here. Yeah. There we go. Okay. I'm going to lean against the horse again. Pull out. Pick up one more hold. That tightens my offside. And right now, I'm a hold of this horse's barrel. The skin rotates around the barrel pretty well with this girth, which holds the saddle and stabilizes it better than any other. But it simply doesn't get tight right here, as you can see. So in there, we don't bite in where this horse is already sore anymore. It costs a little, but it's like a little saddle under the horse. Yeah, not too bad, huh? Yeah. Now, first thing you're going to ask, and I tell my stories on D. Pickett because he and I worked on this pad and did a lot of the development with him riding and roping and using it. And that is, but it doesn't come down past the buckle. It's up above my buckle right here. I want it down here. No, you don't, D. Pickett. Yes, I do. Okay, I made it for him. I told him, I said, D, it's going to stick this out further. You're going to swing back and forth against it. You're going to get a roaning of white hair under this damn thing sooner or later. A year later, D calls me. Lynn, you know them short pads you make, still that long one you make for me? I said, yeah. He said, would you send me one of the short ones? He said, okay, I got a little crow to eat, but I got a roaning of white under this little cinch ring. I said, yeah, I'll send you a short one. And I did, because you don't want that extra bulk sticking out down here to rub against, to put pressure with rubbing and a little fluid under the skin. A lot of little details like that we do. Safety cam stirrups. You can roll your fender up and break it in a little again, but safety cam stirrups you typically want pointed forward. Right here, they're adjusted in the middle position. And what they do when your stirrup straps are broken in, and the reason we don't put the end of the strap rolled inside the leather, it makes the leather too stiff, it does not turn easily, and it creates a lot of bulk. If you got to turn it, instead of cutting it off, slip it under here and slip it under the little stirrup hobble. And keep it like that if you just got to have it for adjustment. What we're doing by not running 4 thicknesses of leather through here is making it a little more comfortable for you, but we're also making it so this cam works better. Let me show you this a little more clearly. The strap, because the cam tilts forward, the strap pulls the cam the more weight you put in the stirrup. So the more you tilt it forward, the more cam action you have. A little weight in the stirrup and the heels go down. A whole lot of weight and the strap pulls the cam in line with it and takes your foot and leg out and away from you where you were throwing the weight. This keeps you in the seat. It's great for trail riders. It's great for anybody doing ranch work. And it's great for cutting, and it works very well for that. In the conclusion on these safety cam stirrups, you point it toward the front of the horse. That keeps you in the seat of the saddle. It makes it hard for you to put a foot through a stirrup. Makes you a better rider because your heel's down, and just is much safer than riding with a regular stirrup. For a roper, they oftentimes put them in and switch them around. Put the cam toward the back, toes go down, heels up, legs back, and they go against the swell. It gives them a great steadying stance to throw the loop and not have to worry about their foot or leg accidentally coming forward while they're doing that. To show you what we do here with the excess, if we're latigoing on either side, we've got a slot. Some saddles we still have the little hanger with a slot, but I like the slot in the yoke. It goes up there and it's completely smooth and out of the way. So you don't have much to worry about. You can cut the end of a latigo strap off a little bit in this situation too. You don't have to have it hanging around too long if you don't want. A flank billet, you don't have to use quite as tight here if we're tight with the girth. And I'm not too tight because I loosened it just a second ago. But we don't go up very far. So a little bit of tension on the flank strap will hold this saddle quite well. You will pick up a fair bit of shock absorption with the system. And uncinching, simply again push against the horse. You don't jerk him around. He likes it much better, and he stands there. This eliminates more cinching problems than you can imagine. And he's not used to having that girth flop the other way, taking it off this side. That's a 16-inch saddle, and it's only 25 inches long overall. The thing that I want to explain about our trees and how we can make such a thin tree, have it be so strong, how we can put a cutting horn in and guarantee it for roping. If we have a saddle tree broken on a horse, regardless, if it's on a horse, we will replace the tree. We don't hand you a tree, we put a new tree in your saddle. The tree itself is covered with heavy fiberglass cloth and epoxy resin. It's reinforced right here, it's reinforced around the horn, and if one ever fails, it's typically because somebody did not glass it properly, did not get enough epoxy resin and proper cure on it. That hardly ever happens today because our tree company has become very experienced, quite efficient. We've been doing our own tree company now since 1995. Thought I'd mention that on a lifetime guaranteed tree. I hope this Western instruction video helps you and helps you to understand your horse a little more, particularly if you tie it in with the video on palpating the horse, checking your horse and understanding his muscles and how he works a little better. Thank you very much.